A peaceful night by the bridge turned into a scene of chaos. An elderly millionaire, known for his quiet generosity, found himself at the mercy of a ruthless cartel. They threw him from the edge without a second thought, their cold disregard echoing in the dark. What they didn't know was that someone else was watching. Hidden in the shadows was a war veteran, a man who had seen his fair share of battles, but never imagined he'd witness something like this so close to home. With instincts honed by years of service and a moral compass that refused to waver, he knew he couldn't just walk away. As the cartel vanished into the night, he made a decision that would change everything. This wasn't just about justice, it was personal. What happens next will leave you on the edge of your seat. Stay tuned for the full story. The veteran stood frozen for a moment, his mind racing as the distant sound of the cartel's vehicle disappeared into the night. He was no stranger to danger, but this was different. This was senseless, cruel. He moved quickly down the embankment, his boots crunching on gravel as he reached the spot where the man had fallen. To his surprise, the millionaire was still alive, clinging to consciousness, his breath shallow but determined. The veteran crouched beside him, noticing the faint glint of a ring on his finger, a small reminder of the life this man had built. Who was he? And why had the cartel targeted him? These questions nagged at the veteran, but there was no time to dwell. He had to act fast. As he worked to stabilize the injured man, his sharp eyes caught something unusual in the man's jacket, a clue that could unravel a dangerous secret. As the veteran carefully searched the injured man's jacket, his fingers brushed against a folded envelope tucked inside. It was heavy with something more than paper, keys, perhaps, or a hidden drive. He slipped it into his pocket, deciding it could wait until they were safe. The man groaned softly, his lips forming words too faint to hear, but the urgency in his eyes was clear. The veteran scanned the area, his military training taking over. The cartel could return, and staying here was a risk. He lifted the man as gently as he could, his muscles straining under the weight, and began the long trek back to his truck. Every step felt like a lifetime, his mind replaying the scene he'd just witnessed. Why would the cartel target someone like this? Was it robbery, revenge, or something far more sinister? Unbeknownst to the veteran, the cartel hadn't left for good. In the distance, headlights flickered, and a cold chill ran down his spine. They were coming back. The veteran quickened his pace, his heart pounding as the sound of tires crunching gravel grew louder. He reached his truck and carefully placed the injured man in the passenger seat, covering him with an old jacket. There was no time to waste. He climbed into the driver's seat and started the engine, its low rumble breaking the night's uneasy silence. In his rearview mirror, he saw the cartel's headlights drawing closer. They weren't just passing through. They were looking for something or someone. The veteran kept his cool, pulling onto the road with deliberate calm, hoping not to draw attention. But the cartel's vehicle didn't keep driving. It stopped at the bridge. As he glanced over at the man slumped beside him, the veteran's mind raced. Was this man carrying something they were desperate to recover? And what was in that envelope he'd found? The stakes were higher than he'd imagined, and now they were on his trail. As the veteran drove, the cartel's vehicle turned back onto the road, its headlights now trailing him. His knuckles tightened on the wheel as he weighed his options. He couldn't lead them back to his home, but with an injured man and no backup, confronting them head-on wasn't an option either. Every twist and turn of the road felt like a gamble, the glow of the headlights unwavering in the mirrors. Then the man beside him stirred, his voice a rasping whisper. "They want the ledger." The words hit like a thunderclap. The veteran glanced at him, startled. "What ledger?" He pressed, but the man's eyes fluttered shut again. The envelope, it had to be connected. He pulled off onto a hidden dirt road, cutting the truck's lights and holding his breath. The cartel's car sped past, but his relief was short-lived. Moments later, his phone buzzed. A blocked number. He answered cautiously, and a cold, unfamiliar voice spoke. "We know where you are. Turn him over, or you'll regret it." The veteran's pulse quickened at the threat, but he didn't answer. Instead, he opened the envelope, revealing a small leather-bound book, worn but intact. Inside were pages filled with detailed accounts, names, dates, and transactions. This wasn't just any ledger. It was evidence that could dismantle the cartel. Now it made sense. The elderly millionaire wasn't just a target. He was a threat to their entire operation. The man groaned again, his voice hoarse but urgent. "Take it. To the authorities. Don't trust anyone else." The veteran nodded, determination hardening his resolve. He knew what he had to do, but he also knew the cartel wouldn't let him get far. As he turned the truck back onto the main road, the cartel's car reappeared, blocking his path. With nowhere to run, the veteran did the unthinkable. He drove straight toward them, his headlights blazing. At the last second, he swerved, clipping their vehicle and sending it spinning off the road. The crash bought him enough time to disappear into the night. Hours later, as the sun began to rise, the veteran pulled into a remote sheriff's station, the ledger clutched in his hand. But just as he stepped inside, a familiar voice stopped him cold. "I've been expecting you," the sheriff said, his tone laced with menace. The cartel's reach was deeper than he'd thought. The fight wasn't over yet. The veteran froze, the sheriff's cold gaze locking with his. For a moment, he thought he'd made a grave mistake. But then the sheriff's eyes flicked to the ledger in his hand, and his expression softened. "You've done more than you know," the sheriff said, his voice low. He gestured for the veteran to follow him into a back room. There, the veteran saw something he didn't expect. Federal agents waiting, armed with warrants and ready to act. The sheriff had been working undercover, using his position to dismantle the cartel from within. Relief washed over the veteran as he handed over the ledger, knowing its contents would bring justice. The elderly millionaire, now under medical care, would survive, his bravery finally exposed. As the cartel's reign of terror unraveled, the veteran quietly disappeared, his role unsung but unforgettable. Some battles are fought in silence, but their impact echoes forever.